Hello guys and welcome to the tutorial. Let's start with the basics here. For Foundry I'm using my wife's character Luna Bell on my campaign Rime of the Frost Maiden, and I'm going to give you some examples of how to use Foundry. So first things first, you can right click on the map and move it as you want to move, and you can also scroll your wheel on your mouse to zoom in or zoom out. So those are the first functions. Another thing you can do if you have a laptop is you can hold control on your keyboard and then use your arrows to pan your map over. So that's easier if you don't have a mouse on the laptop. Now to the interface. On the top left here we have the Foundry logo, which does nothing. Right to the right of it we have the scenes. So here are the maps or scenes you can see. Your DM has the ability to drag you between them as they wish, and most of the times you only see the scene you are into. So now we have the main menus here, which is the control bar. On the left you have the categories, and then on the right it's the tools inside each category. So the first category we're looking at is the token controls, and the tool we have here is select tokens, which means whenever we click on a token we're going to select it, as I am doing here with Luna. Then we have target and measurement distance, but we do not need to use those because we have shortcuts. So always keep your select tokens tool here, and then you can control and left click if you want to measure distance, as I am doing right now. And you can also alt and click on a token to target it. So this is for attacks or spells that you're willing to cast. This is much better than using the targeting tool here. So alt click to target. The second category is the templates tool or the measurement tools. These are used to place templates on the battlefield if you want to calculate if your fireball or your burning hands or whatever it is area effect you're going to use, how many squares it's going to hit. So you can click here and then just drag, and it's going to expand into the area, and then you can drag it as you want. Everybody's going to see this, by the way, and you can do this when it's not your turn if you want to measure or calculate something, and to remove it you just mouse over the central thing and you press delete. You can also create cones and turn them as you wish, and delete. You can create squares, and you can also create straight lines for lightning bolt and things like that. The next part here, the next category, is the journal nodes. These are nodes that the DM may drag and place on the map, as you can see it here. They are originally kept here on the journal nodes entries tab. Anything you have access to is going to show up here, but the DM has to give you access to see those and drag them on the map so you can see it like this. If you want to keep them on the map even when you change layers, you have to use the pin tool. So when I change layers here, you see that it disappeared, but if I click the pin tool, then when I change layers you can see it's still there. Now here at the bottom we have the player tool. You can click on your name, in this case it's Luna, and I can open the user configuration and change the color of my mouse cursor, and also change which is the main character that is assigned to me. In this case she only has access to Luna, so that's what's assigned to her account. Here on the right you have the shortcut bar. You can minimize it if you want, or you can have it showing. You can drag any macros on your sheet down here and then use it as a shortcut. So in this case Luna has a longbow, dagger, and other things. You can put spells here, you can put all kinds of things, or you can click on an empty slot and create a brand new macro. But don't mess with this if you don't know what you're doing. You should understand the Foundry macros before you do any of this. You have multiple pages of macros that you can cycle through, 5 total, so there's a lot of room here for shortcuts. Now we go to the right side where we have all of these tabs here, each one of them doing something different. So the first one is the chat tab. That's the main tab. That's where all the roles are. That's where people can, type and chat and send messages to, and it's the main tab where the game is coordinated. Now one other thing to remember is that here you have the chat, and if you want to roll publicly, you can just select public role. If you want to roll just to you and your GM, private GM role. If you want to roll to just the GM and then just for yourself. So you can choose the type of role, just select here and then click on whatever role you want to do, and it's gonna roll accordingly. And people will not see it on the chat as if they don't have access to. Here on the below the chat we have the dice tray. So if you want to roll a d4, you can just click a d4. If you want to roll a d4 and a d10, you can just click it and you can keep adding. To remove dice, you right click on them. And if you want to roll like 4d6, for example, 5d6, you can just right click or left click as you wish. It's going to put the formula here on the chat, and then you can just click roll and it's going to roll it for you. The second tab is the combat tracker tab. Now, besides the chat tab, all tabs in here, if you right click them, they will pop off in a separate window, which then gives you the ability to move them around, double click to minimize, click to see it again. You can mess around with them. I like to keep the combat tracker here and then stay on the chat tab so I can see all the roles while still seeing the initiative. It's empty right now because we're not in combat. Whenever combat starts, the DM is going to add all the monsters and the players here to the combat tracker, and then you'll be able to roll initiative through it. So just keep that in mind. You can right click it and pop it out. If you close, it goes back there. You can do that to all the other windows. So you can right click and they will pop out immediately. Then we have the scenes tab. This is going to show you the scenes that you have access to. In this case, the only scene that Luna has access to is the Icewind Dale map that she can also access here through the map interface on the top. So if I click there, then it will load the world map for the campaign that I have created to my players. This is the Icewind Dale map, and you can zoom in and out. There's some snow going on here, but yeah. Most of the times the DM is going to give you access to only the scene that you're in, and the moment you leave it's no longer available, but sometimes there will be extra scenes like the world map or any other areas that you can access by default. The next tab is the actors tab. Here you're going to see all the actors that you have access to. Actors in Foundry are players, NPCs, or monsters. So in this case, Luna can see all her party members. She can see some quest givers and allies, some Brinshender NPCs and some Lonelywood NPCs. So this depends on what the DM is going to give you access to see. The items tab is going to have items. You could also have spells here and other things, but in general you might be even empty if the DM doesn't give you access to anything. So just keep in mind that this tab is mostly to keep some items that are specific to this game and this world that the DM wants to keep control over. And he has to give you access or you're not going to see anything. The next tab is the journal entries tab, as I had mentioned before. Here it will be any handouts and journals that your DM gives you access to. If they give you access to create handouts and journals, then you have a button down here that says create journal entry. But if in this case Luna doesn't have power to do it. And then all that she sees here are the journals that the DM has given access to all the players. One important thing to remember when you're opening a journal entry like this is that you can double click on the top here to minimize it in case you want to keep it and just reference later without having to return here to the journal tabs. And if you double click, it's going to maximize. You can also, if you have two monitors, click on pop out here, and it's going to pop it out on a second window that you can then drag to your other monitor if that's the case. But it's not very useful if you're not with double monitors. You click pop in and it's going to go back right to Foundry. You can do this to pretty much any windows in the game. As long as the pop out button is here, you can pop it out in a separate window, minimize it, or put it on the other monitor. At the bottom of this, you have the quest log button, which then opens all the quests in progress that you have, the ones that you have completed, and the ones that are available in case the DM puts any there. So this is just for roleplay, and it helps keeping track of what's going on in the game. The DM may or may not use these according to the campaign you're playing. When you click on a quest, you can see objectives here, you can see the little flavor text, and you can see the rewards. This is great to read in between games and kind of remind yourself of what's going on and what are the objectives and goals that you have pending with your group. Some of these may be group and some of these may be individual. The DM is going to decide who can see which quests in here. This tab is the rollable tables tab. You're not going to be using this very much, but if you're a wild magic sorcerer, for example, then you might have a table here that your DM is going to give you access to, where you click and it basically rolls results on a table. So it's not a very, these random charts and tables are more of a DM tool, not so much for players, but it's good to know that it's here. The next tab is the volume controls or sound audio playlist tab. You can click here and adjust the volume. So if you adjust the playlist, then you're gonna adjust the volume of the music. If you adjust the ambient sounds, then you will adjust the volume of the ambient sounds, such as, for example, if there's a fireplace in the map, the DM can put a little crackling sound on that fireplace, and you can regulate the volume of that by using the ambient bar. And the interface is when you click doors to open and close them and things like that. It will control the volume of that. Next tab is the Compendium tab. Now these are essentially books and resources from Foundry, depending on how much visibility the DM gives to you. You may see more or less here, but for example, you can see all the feats in the game. If you want to read anything, you can quickly access them. You can see all the races in the game and their attributes. So you can click them and read everything. So this is useful if you want to consult anything. It's like a player's handbook for you. You have all the items in the game here and so on. If something is not default and is customized by your DM for your game, then it's going to be on the items tab here. And then last you have the settings tab, where you can configure settings. Here you have some core settings from Foundry. You can change performance by clicking system settings, and you also can configure specifically module options by clicking module settings. So keep that in mind, because some of these things here you may have to configure to optimize performance on your computer. If you want to minimize this area, you can just click on the double arrows on the right, and it will automatically minimize it. But it's always good to keep it open so you can see chat. Now this takes care of the main interface of Foundry. We now need to talk about the token interface. When you right click your token, you will see these options here. So this is the elevation. This changes the elevation of a token, so everybody will know that it's 15 feet up in the air, for example, or 20 feet up in the air. This is if you have flying speed or if you're climbing the wall or something like that. It doesn't do anything except for display how high your token is. This next one is targeting. So if you click here, you will be targeting your token, which we are not doing right now. But remember, you can always alt click and it will target it just the same. This is your HP right here. So you can just update your HP really quickly on your token by clicking this part and putting, for example, -10 and pressing enter. Then Lunabelle now has less HP, -10. All the other options here, they're not very used, so just talk to your DM if you want to know anything about it. The next part is the auras. So here you have effects like deafened, concentrating, charmed, blinded, exhaustion. So you can click to apply an effect on the token. It's going to show up here on the top. It can have multiple effects applied to it, and you just have to click them again to remove them. And the last one here is the toggle combat state, which will put you on the combat tracker. But your DM has to start it. So the DM has to put the monsters in the combat tracker, and then you can add yourself by clicking here, or the DM will do it for you. As you can see here on the side, you have options to toggle light spell, or toggle lantern, or toggle torch. Luna doesn't own a lantern and doesn't own a torch, but if she did, and if it was in her inventory, she would have the option to click those and it would emanate a light. As you can see here, she has a light spell on that I enabled on her so that she can see properly. Foundry has dynamic vision and dynamic lighting, so she can only see things that are in line of sight. As you can see, the statue is blocking her sight. You can see the plant out here, but if I move like this, then the fog of war takes over and I can't see it anymore. So I can only see things that are in my line of sight. How do you move your token? You drag it. It's really simple. Click and drag wherever you want to go and it's going to move. You can also use the arrows while selecting your token to move it across the map. This is easier if you have a laptop or if you just want to do smaller moves using the grid. One more thing you can do with your token to move it, you can start with your mouse on top of your token, hold the Ctrl key on your keyboard, and then you can drag it and plan a movement with left clicking to create anchor points like this, for example, and plan wherever you want to go. And once you're done, you press space and your token's going to move the entire movement space there. Obviously, you cannot move through walls. You're going to get an error if you try to move through walls or close doors. And you can drag yourself to a door that you see like this, and you can click it to open. If it's locked, it's not going to open, it's just going to make a noise, and your DM is going to let you know that it's locked, and then maybe give you a chance to lockpick or kick it open, whatever it is that you want to do. One other important thing to remember about vision and movement is that as she has light here, I can see everything in detail and colored, but if I right click it, then she has only dark vision and everything becomes black and white, because that's how you see on dark vision. So she still can see because she's an elf. If you don't have dark vision, this entire map would go dark whenever you turn off the light source there. In order to rotate your token, you can just click it and then press shift and then press the arrows and it will rotate to the side that you pressed. You can also hold shift and use the mouse wheel to rotate it like this, or you can use Ctrl to rotate it more slowly if you need to. This is not very useful, but it's, you know, it's something to know. Maybe sometime you might rotate it by mistake. Now you know how to fix it. And last but not least, if you double click your token, you're going to open your character sheet. Now let's go over the character sheet a little bit. So here you have the character portrait, HP, and you're going to have this red bar going up as you lose HP. And so to see the whole thing, you have to be full. You have take a rest. You can do a long rest, short rest, or a long rest here, and you can see your hit dice here at the corner as well. Here you can mark if you have inspiration given by your DM, and here if you have any exhaustion levels, you can add this to this token. Here you're gonna have the name, race, class, size, everything about the character. You have the proficiency bonus, here you have the level, experience if your DM's using it. You have all the 6 main stats, the value, and then the modifiers. If you want to click here, you will do a check, and if you want to click on the right, you're going to do a saving throw. Here you have your armor class, and here you have your skills. With those skills, as usual, if it's empty, you don't have it, not proficient. If you have a check mark, then you're proficient. If you have half a check mark, then you half a circle, then you have half proficiency. And if you have double check mark, then you have expertise, which is twice the proficiency. You can also see your proficiency here at the bottom. And if you click special traits here, then you may be able to configure even more options for rolling for jack of all trades in case of the bard, giving you half proficiency on every skill that you don't have. If you have the alert feat, this is going to give you +5 to initiative and advantage on initiative for rangers and other classes that get this. So you can look here on the special traits and check those in case needed. Here to the right, you're going to see your favorite things, and I'm going to go over that in a moment. So the inventory tab is the tab where you keep all your items. So she has arrows, she has torches, she has backpack, bedroll, clothes, and so on. Anything that is equipped, you right click and you can unequip, and then you right click and you equip the item. As you can see, the armor updates here. Then we have weapons, hand axe. If you click on something, it's gonna open it up with a more detailed description, and if you click on the icon, which turns into this D20, then it shows up on the chat for everybody to see. If it's an attack, then you're gonna roll the attack by clicking on the icon like this. So for example, Luna's longbow, I can see information about it, and if I click like this, then it's going to roll a D20 plus a D8, and this is the attack roll, and this is the damage roll. As you can see, she rolled a 4 plus 7, 11. If I want to roll with advantage, I can just hold shift and click on the macro, and it's going to roll 2d20 and choose the bigger one. In this case it's 20, and it's going to do damage. And if I want to roll with disadvantage, I can control click it, and it's going to roll 2d20 and pick the lowest, in this case number 10, and do 11 damage here. So keep that in mind. Normal click, control click for disadvantage, shift click for advantage. This works for pretty much anything you want to roll on your sheet. Let's suppose you want to roll strength saving throw with advantage. I will shift click this, and it will roll 2d20 and pick the biggest one for a strength check. And this works for pretty much anything in the sheet. After the inventory, we have the spell book. Here you're going to have all the spells. You can see the spell slots here on the top. In this case, Luna has 1 out of 3 first level spell slots. You can see all the properties of the spell here. If you click on the name, you open up the full description of the spell, just like the items. And if you click here, it's going to cast the spell and consume the spell slot accordingly. Here are the class features that you can have. You can read all of that you can do in your class here, and you can also roll abilities from here, just like the inventory and the spells. The journal has some roleplay information you can add, so if you click it, free to click here and write whatever you want, then you click the save button here to keep it. Remember that if you want to delete anything from your inventory or a spell book or your features, you have to unlock the sheet by clicking here on this padlock, and at this moment you can right click anything and then delete the item from your sheet. And you can just lock it again by clicking the padlock. One other important thing from the character sheet is that if you right click on anything here and you click add to favorite, then it's going to automatically show up here on the first tab together with everything. So you can see that Luna in this case has her dagger, her longbow, her quarterstaff, and her dread embouchure longbow as favorites, and also all of her spells. And you can remove favorite and it will disappear from here, but it will still be here on the tab where it was initially. So this is just kind of a shortcut for the character sheet. This kind of takes care of the character sheet, and then we can go to this thing here that I've been ignoring all this time. Whenever you select a token, like I have selected Luna here, you will get this little token action pop up, and you get to just use everything that is on your sheet here. It's a very useful shortcut. You can drag this anywhere you want, keep it on the screen, and you can roll your quarterstaff, your longbow here, or cast your spells or features. So everything, you can do saves, you can do checks, you can add conditions to yourself. This is a very useful shortcut that you can use to do everything on Foundry with your character just by selecting your token. Now it's time to talk about combat. So I'm on my DM screen here. I am going to add everybody here to the combat tracker, and combat's gonna start. So as you can see at the top here, the combat carousel has shown up. The DM is rolling initiative for everybody, and then beginning combat. The moment I do this, we'll see the order here. So the first one is Ravison, then Ignis, then Luna, then Awaken, and Isidore. You can click the combat tracker here, and you'll see everybody and their initiative values. Right click to pop it out, position it here, and there we go. So the DM and other players are going to be passing the turn. So Frost Druid, then Ignis, then Luna. So now that it's Luna's turn, I can, let's suppose I want to shoot this moose that is over here. So I'm going to move Luna over here, and then I'm going to alt click the moose to target it, and then I'm going to go to my inventory and roll a longbow attack. I missed, so it doesn't do anything, right? Let's roll again and see if we can hit. With a 15 it hits, and you can, for example, the DM could mouse over, select the animal, and then click here to apply damage. In this case, damage has been applied automatically. And you can see when I mouse over, you'll see barely injured on top. Now, it's the moose's turn, and it's going to attack somebody. So the moose is gonna move over here, and then it's gonna charge on Luna Bell. I am targeting Luna with my abilities, and then I'm opening up the moose sheet, and I'm clicking the antlers ability. And then I'm clicking the charge ability. And I'm gonna move here as it charges towards Luna. In this case, Luna has to do a strength saving throw not to be knocked down. So I can click here. It's not with advantage, it's normal, and I'm gonna do it. Luna Bell fails with a 9. So as you can see, everything is automated. The abilities show up on the chat, the damage is automatically applied, and everything moves as it should.